Hey, what's going on, guys? So, no, we are not going to be talking about fisticuffs. We are going to be talking about conflict resolution and my 5 rules of engagement, which is arguably the most important skill to develop for more fulfilling and peaceful relationships. So, I hope that you are willing to invest a few minutes of your ever decreasing attention span to hold on, I forgot to put on my socks. Can't be talking about relationships with cold feet, right? Anyways, if you can't manage to sit through it, just subscribe, save, and share it to yourself and watch it in 30-second installments. The return on your investment will be worth it. I'm going to be pulling mostly from my decades of personal experience and lessons learned, often the hard way, in several diverse long-term relationships, and also over a decade of experience in business management and customer service and coaching. And last but not least, working with and listening to psychologists and coaches myself over the years. If you have not set rules of engagement, all conflict in your relationships will be subject to prison rules, and your likelihood of real jail time will also increase. I cannot stress the importance of this enough, you guys. If you play by these 5 rules, I promise it can revolutionize your relationships and will also act as a buffer while dating, because you will very quickly be able to filter out anyone who is not willing or healthy enough to play by the rules. Your boundaries separate what you are responsible for from what anyone else is responsible for. And always remember, all emotions and feelings are valid, but your emotions and feelings never validate nor justify poor behaviors. All right, get your notepad out and let's get into it. Rule number 1, have a destination of connection. If you do not have a destination of connection, you will both get into that conflict cage and you will fight tooth and nail until one emerges the victor.
Hello? Guys? Hey, listen. It's some kind of mistake. I didn't sign up for a cage match.
And that is no way to solve conflict in a relationship. You will argue and you will fight in circles. And I know we've all had those fights that last hours or even days and never seem to go anywhere. And that is because one or both parties have not agreed to or do not want to have the same destination of connection. And that is why you will never arrive at one together. Be honest with yourself. Sometimes you are not actually trying to solve the problem at all. You want to be right and you want them to be wrong. You are trying to win and you want them to lose. And if you are playing a game of a winner and a loser, then you are objectively not playing on the same team. And when it comes to relationships, that means you will both lose in the end. No, this does not mean compromising on your values and your boundaries or allowing any sort of mistreatment and abuse. It simply means that both parties must have the posture of moving towards the goal of connection, because anything else will be aiming at disconnection. Get on the same team. Ideally, if both people can say, I know that we are not seeing eye to eye right now, but I choose you. I love you. I want this conversation to bring us together. I want to feel seen and heard, and I want you to feel seen and heard. And I believe that we can get through just about anything together. We both need to be flexible enough to create space in certain areas and to come closer in certain areas. Our perspectives, experience, and position may look different, but we are on the same team. The fight is not between us. The fight is us against the situation at hand. Now, I'm sure that you can imagine the direction most conflict will take when you can start off on that footing together. Am I right? Rule number 2, insults are off limits. It is okay to be direct and to call out behaviors that are unacceptable without swearing and berating this person that you are trying to build a long-lasting relationship with. If you are feeling like you want to berate them and start kicking and screaming and insulting, it's often because you are trying to overpower them. You are trying to devalue them and belittle them into submission. When has someone being called out of their name ever de-escalated a situation? So if name calling doesn't de-escalate, then the purpose is to escalate. You are trying to hurt them. You are not trying to resolve the conflict. You are trying to fight. You are trying to hit them below the belt. It is good to ask yourself where that comes from and who you learned that from, because it is never acceptable. This is one of my personal non-negotiables. People talk about sticks and stones, breaking bones, and words not hurting.
False.
I say words poison and corrode. When you attack your partner's character, that leaves a very deep emotional wound. I'm sure most of us have certain words, phrases, and insults that have resulted in a trigger effect. Rule number 3, listen, acknowledge, and attune. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Act accordingly, especially during conflict. At the end of the day, we all just want to feel heard and seen and valued. You would be surprised how many guest complaints and issues I have solved while working in restaurant management simply by listening, attuning, and acknowledging. Someone can start popping off, furious, irate, unreasonable, looking for a fight, and whether their reasons are valid to me or not, most of the time, we can de-escalate the situation by getting on their team. I know it is counterintuitive and can require practice to build the muscle for it, as our first instinct when someone goes on the offensive is to go on the defensive, to feel like we are on opposing teams. And often we will either cower and make excuses, or we will get defensive and aggressive and try to fight back, which I have historically been notorious for when I feel disrespected, or even more so when I see someone else being disrespected, especially if they are someone who is under my charge. So this remains a challenge for me personally, if I'm going to be honest with you. But the principle remains. If we can understand that we are on the same team as this upset person, we can work together to resolve the issue. Get in the pain cave with them. Validate their emotional state and distress. If you can get on their team and both be upset about the same issue together, their brain will short circuit and suddenly they will stop seeing you as the enemy. It's uncanny. Rule number 4. Do not engage in trench warfare. If you try to force compliance, it will be temporary. If they do not believe what they are doing is wrong in their own heart, from their own free will, within their own values and boundary systems, they will not truly change. Maybe you can guilt them or bribe them or manipulate them or scare them into submission, but that will not last. Rebellion is inevitable. So never try to force what you think is right or wrong down their throat. It is much more effective to ask them more questions about what they think is right and wrong and why. Ask them about their ideas for solutions. If you can ask the right questions and allow them to either come to common ground with you or expose themselves as hypocritical, checkmate.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
If they truly believe certain things are okay that do not align with what you consider to be okay in accordance with your boundaries and values, then you know this situation will be a dogfight for the duration of the relationship unless some sort of compromise can be agreed on. So now you can make an informed decision with a clear conscience to make that compromise or walk away for your own protection and peace. Your boundaries are not to be forced upon the free will of others. That is trench warfare. Rule number 5, have an exit strategy. The door of the conflict cage should always remain open and unlocked. You have to be able to step out of the ring when you are feeling emotionally flooded or hurt, and you have to allow your partner that same space. Fun fact, or not so fun fact, the majority of domestic violence situations are sparked when the ability to leave the room is compromised. When an animal feels trapped and backed into a corner with no escape route, they will attack. We humans are no different, so please do not underestimate the importance of this, but also understand Abandonment and stonewalling are forms of emotional abuse. So walking out and leaving your partner hanging every time you're uncomfortable or upset is also unacceptable behavior. You do not get to just shut down and ignore, nor can you force someone to face the music and open up and talk. So you have to get on the same team and leave that door open. And when you become emotionally flooded during conflict and your peripheral vision starts to narrow as you go into fight or flight, and you start to want to say and do things that will harm the team, you have to stop there. You have to take a recess and reconvene. Make sure that you reassure your teammate that you are not running away, and agree upon an appropriate amount of time to cool down and get your heart posture correct. I personally recommend you go move your body, go for a walk or a run or a workout, because the fastest way to change your emotional and mental posture is to change your physical posture. All right, anyways, this concludes my 5 rules for fighting and winning any fight, and I hope that you found it valuable. Thanks for watching.
Pressure divide, pressure.
Yeah. Nice.